remote work is morally wrong. In case you missed it, remote work is morally wrong, according to Thelonious Muskrat. So I'll say a few things about this. Number one, Elon, this is directly to you. You really need to get back to work. You really need to quit playing politics and pretending like you know what you're doing in government, because you very clearly don't. Number one. Number two, what you're doing is criminal. And number three, your businesses are absolutely destroying themselves. So you have a moral obligation to go back to work to the companies that have you as their CEO, as their executive. You cannot be an executive of these businesses and uphold your moral obligation to your shareholders and try to destroy our federal government at the same time while awarding yourself contracts. So let me unpack some of that for those of you that are not necessarily inundated by all of the nonsense going on in this world lately. Starship rockets, 2 of them have exploded in the last 90 days, both of which have rained down astronomical amounts of chemicals and problems onto the people that are in their pathways. Number 2, Elon Musk has gone in, and any part of our federal government that was investigating his businesses for ethical issues and frankly criminal behavior, he went through and with Trump's approval gutted all of the inspector generals, brain injuries, bear with me, fired all the inspector generals that had cases where they were investigating Starlink and all the other companies where Elon Musk has been creating problems. So he's deliberately and intentionally trying to undermine the inspector generals and anyone in the agencies that were going to investigate him, even though we've got Trump on his national address. I won't call it a State of the Union because that's not what it was. On his national address in front of Congress, talking about how unelected bureaucrats are no longer going to control our government, yet the guy with the camera, pure genius, panned right to Elon Musk as he was saying this. Absolutely spot on. So 2 Starship rockets have exploded recently. The Tesla stock since December 17th went from $480 down to $260 and appears to be continuing on this downward trend. So, Elon, your responsibility is to your shareholders. Keep that in mind, because at some point they're going to replace you. And I hope sooner than later, because frankly, your running of these companies has been abysmal from the very beginning. The way that you have treated your employees like they're miners in the emerald mine that your family ran down in South Africa, in apartheid South Africa at that, and treated people as though they were essentially slaves and they were obligated to work in your mines. You took that money and then started buying businesses in the United States and have treated your employees as though they are just an expendable tool and part of the necessary evil of running a business. Opposing any kind of unionization, opposing any kind of resistance where you actually have to pay somebody a real wage. Instead, you spend your entire career on corporate welfare. How many billions of dollars have you taken from us taxpayers? How many billions of dollars have you wasted in your endeavors trying to prove that you're some kind of a super genius when you're really not? You're just a ketamine cowboy. How many billions of dollars of government welfare have you used and exploited for your own personal conquest to try to live out some fantasy that your family named you after, even though your great-grandfather or grandfather, somebody was actually named Elon, but you're trying to claim that you're named after Werner von Braun's character, Elon? That's an interesting twist in the story, because Werner von Braun was a straight-up Nazi. Straight up Nazi, rocket engineer, straight up Nazi. And you're trying to claim connection to the guy in his story that happened to be on Mars and was some kind of a colonial leader in that endeavor. Interesting connection. So let's dive a little deeper into your very white nationalist neo-Nazi garbage that you and your mother and your grandparents are very clearly tied to. So your grandparents were part of the Canadian Nazi Party. That's great. That's absolutely amazing for you. That fits you to a T from what I know of you. And I happened to actually work in one of your organizations back in the day, specifically tasked with finding out you and the Rive brothers and what you guys were actually all up to and all about. But that's another story. So your grandparents, part of the Nazi Party, moved to apartheid South Africa so that they could be more aligned with people that had similar values. You really liked this idea of cultural segregation, and you liked the idea of slave ownership and using these people in the mines and treating them as though they are blood mine workers. And then now you're giving these amazing speeches, these Orwellian speeches to the AfD party in Germany, which is known by German intelligence to be a neo-Nazi based party. This is absolutely just so classic for you to be so closely affiliated with all these neo-Nazi far-right, absolute garbage political philosophies. I think it's amazing, and I hope your shareholders actually start to understand just how disgusting and how horrible of a human being you truly are. The fact that you can't even, from what I understand now, I'm going off of what I'm gathering from what I can find in my research, that you don't even father your own children. You have to use some kind of a turkey baster, so to speak, because you can't function. So, like, you really shouldn't be contributing to the genetic pool when you can't actually physically contribute to the genetic pool, according to your own neo-Nazi kind of propaganda and all the stuff that you guys preach in your little alt-right meetings. You really shouldn't be contributing to the genetic pool since you can't physically contribute to the genetic pool. But back to the point of all of this, really, Elon, take your ass back to work. Quit pretending to be a political person when you really have no business being there, and your businesses are failing. Your shareholders, you have a moral obligation to actually be there and run these companies, even if you're going to run them into the ground and you're going to be another Trump and just go bankrupt after bankrupt after bankrupt. At least do that from your office and actually show up and do your job. In the meantime, get out of our government. Stop pretending like you know what you're doing, because we all know what you're doing. You're intentionally sabotaging investigations that are exposing the corruption to your businesses, the things that you've done with Starlink, the things that you've done with Tesla AI auto driving systems, the crashes that you're trying to cover up, all of those types of things where you continually fail and you're costing taxpayers billions of dollars because you're living on taxpayer welfare. You need to get out of our government, and you need to quit doing this, because justice is coming. And as you're working diligently to work through the FAA and try to modify and manipulate all of the systems so that your programs can become the main part of our systems, there are people that are going to be pushing back. There are people that are going to start holding you to account. And there are individuals that will research and document all of the things that you are doing, even though you're trying to scrub the records and do all the things that we all know you're doing. There are smart people that are keeping copies. And eventually justice is going to get to you, and you're going to be held accountable, and it's going to be like the Nuremberg trials all over again. You and Trump and all these others, you're all going to end up there. And I really look forward to that for you. I think that's going to be a great day in history. And I really hope to be a part of helping that happen. But that being said, this bullshit where you're trying to take and sabotage a contract with Verizon Wireless and force that to become a Starlink contract, that is straight up corruption and is absolutely unacceptable in our government. So time to go home, time to go quit playing space cowboy and start really focusing on your businesses and get the hell out of our government, because the people are rising and we're coming. So this is your last warning.